JBNN to keep you informed. I'm Michelle Jones, and in the news, Mumma Christie gets off light, 9 years and 10 months. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items. 48-year-old Stephanie Cole Christie, more popularly known as Mumma Christie, the lone female defendant in the one-down gang trial, was sentenced by Justice Brian Sykes on Tuesday morning.
Oi.
Hola, mamá. ¿Se va a caer van calma, here? Se va a caer van calma, no calma no.
No va a caer. Link up. Hurry up, man. Yeah.
Hey, man, you there?
No?
Hello?
I'm busy. I'm going to while ago to get the food and thing.
Oh, my man tell me, man.
You want to come on my yard, man? You want to come on my yard? No.
Yeah, come on your yard, man. Yeah, come on your yard, man. Yeah, come on your yard.
I'm going to try.
But I don't know why they would have put you on to him or whatever. I don't know. Why I'm not doing it? She said them now have nothing for any file, so maybe and them sister array. So why would they not put up on there now?
You want to go to it? Yeah, man, you tell me you must be seeing somewhere before 45.
Yeah, you want house. We send the picture to Flown.
Yeah, must be 45, you say. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yo, I said all it. Every information I send to you, receipt, everything with them right up, I send to you. Yeah. And I'm nice to the kid community.
Yeah, not too chatty.
No, man, for real.
Oh, yeah,
Man, if you want to let him feel born by sitting to my father. Help man and good. Good man.
Thank you very much. We're continuing now with the sentencing of Mrs. Stephanie Cole Christie. And yesterday we were noting that she was convicted of the sole count of membership of a criminal organization. That is based upon three things. One, her involvement as part of the discussion concerning the arson of the Torpedo Loan Company. She was part of the group that planned that activity. That evidence showed that she was part of a criminal organization. Secondly, she was part of the group that traveled from Spanish Town to Ewerton in search of ice, and as I said, that count failed for technical reasons, but the evidence nonetheless was relevant to show that she was a part of a criminal organization, and she knew that that trip involved the purpose of killing ice, should he have existed or should he have been found. In addition to that, there's the evidence of one of the witnesses in the case that she acted as the go-between between the police and the organization for the purpose of trying to elicit information from the police to know how much information and the type of information that they had on the organization at any moment in time. And that was confirmed by the evidence of the retired detective inspector who interacted with her for some time prior to her arrest, and the nature of the interaction was such that it confirmed what the witness had indicated about her. The maximum penalty for being a member of a criminal organization is 20 years. Turning now to the social inquiry report, she indicated that she was never a part of the criminal organization, has never benefited from the criminal organization, never carried out any criminal activities on the part of the criminal organization, and never witnessed any of her co-defendants behave in a criminal manner. So that assertion is actually contrary to the evidence actually adduced by the Crown. In addition to that, there's also the telephone conversations between herself and the driver of the criminal organization who gave evidence on behalf of the Crown, and the content of the conversation and the frequency of the conversations indicated that she was far more involved than she indicated during the trial and even in her social inquiry report. So despite the recorded conversations that were admitted into evidence, and despite the evidence of the retired detective inspector, both consistent with the primary witness who indicated her role and function, she is still insisting on her position that she was not a part of the criminal organization. The report indicates that since she has been on remand, she occupies her time constructively and is a member of the choir. She works with the kitchen and salon teams at this place where she is being held. And she was of the view that she was rehabilitated, and so is asking the court to extend leniency to her to enable her to return to her family so that she would be better able to care for her daughter, who is dependent on her for support. The report also indicates that she grew up in the Spanish Town area of St. Catherine, attended school regularly, exposed to firm guidance and discipline, received adequate exposure to the principles of Christianity. She indicated at a particular point during her teenage years, she did not heed the advice of her parents. That is not peculiar to her. I suppose most of us as teenagers, when we get to that stage, we think we know far more than our parents, so that is not an unusual event in the life of anyone. She also went on to indicate that she got married in 2011, and after a few years that relationship became quite strained. Nonetheless, that is not something to be held against her in terms of the sentencing process, but is merely to provide information as to who she is and what is her background and life to date. She indicated that she has always had an interest in community development, and that is what she has dedicated her life to, at least a significant portion of her life, organizing football matches, sports days, school uniform parties, annual summer events on Thursdays called Wet Wet. And she was also involved in feeding the homeless in Adelaide Street and Hanover Street in Spanish Town on Wednesdays. She was able to bring together a coalition of persons to enable her to continue and to fund her social activities in the communities. And the reason for referring to all of this is that her proposition is that because of her work of this nature, it enabled her or caused her to be the center of attraction. People gravitated towards her, seeking advice and confided in her. And from her perspective, Mr. Brian was one of those persons who sought her advice and confided in her. She explained that she would provide him with encouragement and guidance for his business, his music studio, liquor store, and the block factory. She said that she continued her Christian walk and eventually was ordained as a pastor at her church, which is located in St. Thomas, and she would travel there frequently, most if not all Sundays. The point that she was making was that she would not have had time to be involved in any criminal activity because she was involved heavily in church work and social activities and community outreach programs. Her mother was interviewed, who described her as a jovial, friendly, and nice person, and willingly extended herself to help those in need. In return, people loved and trusted her. Mother indicated that though she raised her children in Spanish Town and at times there was a flare-up of violence, her children, and in particular Mrs. Cole Christie were not affected because she, as the mother, was able to navigate the difficulties posed by increase in violence in the communities in which they either lived or had to navigate in their day-to-day life. She remembers her daughter enjoying going to church, being involved in sports activities, and that is how she knows of her daughter. Her sister, that is Mrs. Cole Christie's sister, described her as willingly helpful and giving freely to all those in need. And so the family members gave a positive report on Mrs. Cole Christie. The community report from the Nugent Street area of Spanish Town, well, not many of the residents were very forthcoming, but those who spoke said that she grew up in the community and appeared friendly, and she operated a clothing store, and as far as they were able to determine, she had someone to assist her in the store. She wasn't there very often, and they were aware that she organized activities for the children of the community, but as to her other planning activities, they were unable to give any views on that one way or the other. And some of the other residents who spoke formed the view that it was shocking to them to learn that she's associated with the gang, and they were expressing their opinion as to possible reasons for her motivation to become involved with the gang. And so there is the social inquiry report. As far as previous convictions are concerned, she admitted 5 previous convictions. 5 of them involved offenses of dishonesty, obtaining money by false pretenses, forgery, uttering forged documents, fraudulent conversion, possession of forged documents. The first conviction was in February of 2016, and the other 4 seem to be different counts on the same indictment since the date of the convictions, the 6th of October 2017. That was approximately a year and a half, 2 years before she was arrested. The report goes on to say that current matter occurred 9 years after her first offense, and in the view of the preparer of the report, the magnitude of this matter indicates an escalation in seriousness of offending behavior. Also says that the offenses for which she was convicted were offenses of dishonesty, and when compared with her current matter, does not establish a pattern of offending. And having looked at a number of these reports, it seems to suggest that in the world of the probation officers, a pattern of offending is established if you have a series of convictions of the same type of offense. So they seem to make the distinction between a pattern of offending and escalation in offending. So this is regarded as an escalation, but not necessarily forming a pattern of behavior. And so I infer from that that by pattern they mean several convictions of the same kind or of the same type. So there we are. So what emerges from the social inquiry report, in my view, is that Mrs. Cole Christie has the skill sets to engage persons in different social levels and able to establish a rapport with them. And it seems as if she translated those skills into what she was doing with the criminal organization. And so this is what she was attempting to do with the retired detective inspector. But unfortunately for her, he had recently returned, as I gather, from training regarding how to interact with members of criminal organizations and trying to turn them now into a source of information rather than become a source of information for them. And so it was essentially a battle of wits over a period of time, which I say ended successfully for the police. So that is what I take from the social inquiry report and her skills. Now, given the level of involvement of Mrs. Cole Christie, albeit that she did not attend physically, well, other than the trip up to Yorkton, and then no act of violence took place there, but albeit that she did not attend upon any of the crime scenes in respect of the offenses charged and the unindicted offenses, it is clear that she was indeed a vital member of the criminal organization, since seeking to get information from the police in a repeated and continuous manner was essential to them, because they needed to know the extent of the information that the police had on them and on whom the police have the information, so they could make the necessary adjustments should it become necessary. And so from that standpoint, she was a critical member of the organization, and I won't say she's the only female, but the only female who has been indicted in this case. I won't say she's the only female member, but certainly the one who has been indicted. And having regard to the skill sets that she possessed, one can clearly see that she would be of immense value to the criminal organization if she were able to utilize her skills effectively. So it seems to me then that there are no aggravating factors to move up closer to 20 years. And I take into account that she has a teenage daughter, take into account that she has skills that are outside of the criminal context valuable, and I take into account that she herself did not commit any act of violence herself. But nonetheless, having regard to her role and function and the seriousness with which these offenses must be taken, the mitigating factors such as they are not sufficient in my view to reduce it below 14 years. So you go down 2 years from 16 to 14, and she has been in custody 4 years and 2 months. So that leaves you with what? 4 from 14, that's 10, and then so that's 9 years and 8 months. Yes, I think 9 years and 10 months. 9 years and 10 months. Yes. So, Mrs. Cole Christie, the sentence of the court is 9 years and 2 months on the count, which charges you with 9 years and 10 months on the count, which charges you with being a member of a criminal organization. So that is it, ma'am.
JBN will keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.